Now, after working and being paid your day's wage, you need to go out and enjoy it with your friends and family, even those who work by themselves. I mean, the business owners, especially the traders. If you have some time, take off some good time, like a week or so, and go for vacations and go for lunch once in a while. Go for dinners that are not at home. You know, when we were growing up, our parents used to tell us that we used to ask and say, can we go have chips and chicken? And our parents would say, no, there's food at home. I believe the reason was that the funds were not enough. But in case you are working, it is advisable that you take off time and enjoy yourself. I'm talking about Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe, a place where you can go with friends and family and enjoy yourself to the fullest. They have a very, very nice menu for the kitchen. That is, they have different cuisines and continental dishes all over the world, from all over the world. And they also have a health club, fully fledged, with a swimming pool, a gym, and all those other services that you might want. And of course, they have space for weddings, for introductions, for giveaways, as well as other events and parties that you would like to host. That is Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe, located in the heart of Entebbe, a few minutes away from the airport, from the Entebbe International Airport. My name is Caro Hamani Tumwine. You are welcome to Issues at Hand this morning, where we discuss issues that pertain or that affect us as Ugandans, as people in the world, as the globe, economically, socially, politically, communally, as well as spiritual, inspirational, and entertaining. It is Good Morning Family, Issues at Hand, and of course on Church of Uganda Family TV. Today I have come with a very interesting one. Now, second-hand clothes are for dead people. This is what our President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni said while in Mbale. Now, this is the story. President Museveni re-echoed the need for citizens to embrace the Buy Uganda, Build Uganda policy if the country is to develop. Of course, in line with this, the President banned the importation of second-hand clothes and electric meters so as to promote buying the locally made ones. Now, of course, we understand his ideas, but is it really a thought-through kind of thing? Can we immediately jump onto it and start to put on the clothes that are made here? First of all, are the clothes that are made here quality enough for us to, rely on them? And are we going to be able to handle the expenses that come with buying the clothes that are made by our textile industry here in Uganda? In his own words, Museveni said, stop buying second-hand clothes. These clothes are for dead people. When they, meaning the whites, when they die, they organize the clothes and bring them to Africa. So he says, support me, we stop importation of second-hand clothes so that we buy our own clothes made locally. He added that in his own words, still I quote, I have declared war on second-hand clothes to promote African wear. We are going to stop importation of second-hand clothes to create jobs from textile factories. Very good idea. His initiative is not bad at all, but at least does the ban have to actually happen right now, or should it be planned prior? And should we see exactly what is going to cause, and if we can stop any possible wrong shortcomings on the way of stopping to put on second-hand clothes? And to discuss that with me, or to discuss the whole issue with me and other issues related to traders, because this is directly affecting traders, I have Joshua Mawerere in studio. He is the chairperson, KACITA Youth League. And of course, we know KACITA is the traders association that was formed privately. It is not even a government entity, and we're going to understand more about how they relate with government as well. In studio with me is Joshua Mawerere. You're welcome, sir. Thank you for making it this morning.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's always a pleasure being here. And good morning, Family TV. Thank you for sticking with the TV and looking at the family values and how we shape up in terms of trade. Like I've been introduced, my name is Joshua Mawerere from KACITA. KACITA is a traders association called Kampala City Traders Association. That's how it comes out in full.
Okay.
And it was started by a couple of traders within Kampala. And later on, in about 2009 to 2012, it reshaped. It changed from Kampala State Traders Association alone. It has evolved to be a national traders association.
Okay.
So now it's KACITA Uganda. So we have affiliations with KACITA, with what we call Mobisa. Mobisa is Mawerere City Trade Association. We're going to have KACITA is Jinja City Trade Association. There is Mbale City Trade Association. We shall have Masaka City Trade Association. Like, we've had all these calls from traders saying, look, we have a number of issues in our new cities, and so we need you to come up and help us reshape the dialogue and also the interesting bit about trade. So KACITA is now a national association of traders, and we're glad to work with the traders from all dimensions up to Gulu. We work with issues at the borders in Katuna, in Malaba, also on the Congo border. So a lot of discussions in trade that we handle as an association. So all traders who are there, feel free to come and get to be part of KACITA and also be part of our dialogues. Also, we do policy lobbying and advocacy because we understand the traders, and Uganda doesn't have any national platform for traders. That is the most disappointing thing. We have some associations that have come up, some organized entities like Private Sector Foundation, but the gist of the discussion for the traders, still sits with us because we understand the dynamics of people who are not very much instituted like the organizations that they deal with usually. So we do policy advocacy and reshaping and dialogues with government to be able to make sure that we build the trade. We do discussions with URA, with the UNBS to make sure that we reshape and be able to categorize trade in what is acceptable internationally. Apart from that, socially, we are very vibrant social group of traders. We initiate young traders into the business, give them a lot of discussions to understand. Don't lose money in trade. This is how you do trade. We have so many people who are retiring from public service, those who have had high-paying jobs, those from international jobs. When they retire, they come back to trade in the country. So we usher them into trade. We give them the dynamics. How do you do trade? How do you import? How do you do your taxes? So a lot of also, it's a social net for the traders to be able to get out of information. So that's KACITA for you. I'm happy to be here and have this discussion. So KACITA, maybe lastly, KACITA has two groups now. It has KACITA, the overall umbrella, KACITA Uganda, and under it we have the Youth League, and then we have the Women's League. So make sure that if you're a trader and you're a woman, you know where to fit. We have the Women League. If you're a young person, I head the Youth League. Please come and we have this dialogue and discussions. Thank you so much.
All right. When you look at Uganda as a country, it is guided and, of course, governed by systems in place, put in place by the government of Uganda, put in place by the cabinet, supported by the president. And, of course, these rules and regulations help us to live a better life. Now, there is no national platform for traders. Maybe it is because government sees it not fit to have one. How important is KACITA? What is the importance of such a private body that you had to sit down and come up with? Yet government, on the other hand, didn't see it as a system that should be put in place. What's the importance exactly?
Thank you so much for that question, because it helps us put our foot on the ground as an association. First and foremost, it's disappointing in this country that people think that traders are dispensable. You can't do that to any country because the whole entire world exists because of trade. And so people have to associate with people who understand what they're doing. So we needed an association because earlier on, there wasn't any platform for the traders before KACITA came. People were doing trade on themselves. They were going abroad and import things by themselves, then tussle out the URA reshaping, because also URA was reshaping then. It had a lot of flaws. So the traders encountered a lot of changings. You import something, you reach URA and they say, that's not how, that's the tax, to clear, this has changed. We had a lot of issues with the UNBS in terms of quality. It was also just reshaping up, understanding the standards. We had a lot of inter-country trade that was happening. So to enable young people, the traders then, to move from this country to go to Kenya, buy stuff, come back and resell here, or even take things from Uganda, go and sell them to Kenya. There were a lot of hardships traders were facing. They came with a lot of clearing and forwarding issues. They came with insurance issues. It came with just the social perspective. It came with theft from both the public and the private sector itself. It came with a lot of not understanding how traders do their job. So there were a lot of losing money, losing life, losing the commodities, and also trade itself became useless. So we came in as an association. We were typically brought together because of that, these challenges. So we were institutionalized as a private entity, and KACITA now has been around for coming now to 30 years of existence. So we've been here and swimming in this whole perspective. We understand the traders, we understand the dynamics, we understand the changes in the market, and we've been able to do 4 things. 1, do advocacy for traders because we understand them, and also not all our traders understand when URA brings up a new tax regime. Not everybody understands it. Many of them will have challenges, so it's up to us to simplify so they get to understand. 2, we do lobbying with government and say, this doesn't work. We have to discuss this policy. We have to settle it in the middle where everybody accepts it and it's usable. Then the 3rd is just to galvanize our traders and make sure that they understand why they're doing trade. They don't lose focus. They know the sectors to invest in, and they know how to invest in those sectors and how to do government in some of the different countries that we go to. Then the 4th, it has now started doing what we call building a growth path for traders. Understanding now that we have the African Free Trade Area, we have the East African Community that has come up. How do you trade across the different economic blocks? And then these new policies that are coming up. So we go down and make sure that our clients, our traders are safe. When COVID came, when Ebola came, it was up to us to make sure that our traders are safe. So we give them the guidelines. We make sure that they understand why we're saying, stay home and trade online. So all these new technologies, the evolutions, we're trying to bring them to our traders. So that's why you see traders resilient, and young people are now doing trade. The older sector is also doing trade, and our traders are happy. Yeah.
Thank you so much. How would you love to relate with government? Because government usually comes up with maybe authorities, bodies, entities that they work with, and those are government. But as a private entity, how would you love to relate with the government? Would you love them to give you some kind of platform? What exactly do you expect from the Ugandan government as traders?
This is what we want as traders. We keep saying that trade is indispensable. Government can't do it alone, and you can't do it without the middlemen who are doing the actual trade, who are moving these products. We would like to have government establish a platform for the traders where we have serious dialogue. A directive like the one the president made recently on the second-hand clothes must have gone through a discussion. Because when you put it out, it's televised across the country. His institutions, as the president, pick it up as a directive and it's taken into action. And that has repercussions that it causes the country in the trade sector. Because since it's not discussed and it's going to be implemented, this is what it means. It means that a trader who was importing a container from China or from whatever country of second-hand clothes, and that container reaches Uganda, it will be held. Or it will even not reach Uganda because the directive has taken place. That trader loses money, and we get our money from very hard resources, very hard, what do I call it? We get it from very hard perspectives, maybe if I put it like that. We get it from banks, so maybe you have put there Colorado, your house, your land, and all that. So if that content doesn't reach you and you sell those clothes, the land will go, the house will go. Secondly, we have a lot of young people who are trading in second-hand clothes. And to give you an example, how many young people that the president was talking about are employed in the factories? Vis-a-vis how many young people are in Owino. if you put the two on a platform, you'll find that Owino has more young people employed than the factory. And even many times when you even look at how much are these young people being paid, because we're talking about equitable jobs. Trade is equitable because you add a markup on the product that you've brought. And then you know that if I add this markup, I can survive. How many young people that have got jobs in these factories are getting equitable jobs? So if I was the president of this country, then I would not take that directive, and I would have it discussed first with the traders themselves. Because you're talking about 400, 500, let's say 1,000 young people employed in a factory. You're talking about 50,000 young people in a country that are doing second-hand clothes. We're talking about shops that are doing second-hand clothes. So if you're doing a directive, then you must have weighed this. Then secondly, if you also look at the tax that is got from second-hand clothes, and look at the taxes that are being paid by the factory, put together pay, NSSF, and the operation fees that is being given by the factory. Of course, this factory is even getting incentives. It's getting free water or free power or free amenities that go with establishing a factory here. And so it's not even giving the taxes that the country needs to get out of them. And this can be a 10 years concession, it could be 5 years, it could be 3 years tax holiday. Still, government is losing more than what it gets from the traders who are importing these clothes. So this directive takes away livelihood of thousands of people in this country. It means that in the next few weeks or months when this directive takes place, we're going to see about thousands of young people not going back to school, children not going back to school because their parents' livelihood has been distorted. We're going to see families slide back into poverty. Those that had walked out of poverty, we're going to see them slide back into poverty because they can't afford meals, they can't afford transport, they cannot afford medical health care, they can't afford housing. Now, all these factors by one directive. And this is why we say as traders that, we need a platform to discuss. We appreciate where the president is coming from, by the way. It's not that we detest it. We appreciate it. But where is the conversation about these issues? And this is where we're losing it. Let's talk about, because when you look at employment, second-hand clothes are employing more people, more young people than the factories that they're talking about. If you talk about taxes, the government is getting more taxes from second-hand clothes than the factories they're talking about. Now let's discuss quality. These factories can't guarantee quality of the clothes. We know many people have bought them in the jeans and the shirts and the blouses, and when you put it into water, rinse it, all the color washes out. We know these facts. So are these factories guaranteeing quality? Is the president sure that there's quality in these factories? I, for one, have not seen any of the jeans or the clothes they're saying they make. I've not seen a tag made in Uganda on these clothes. So are we really talking about clothes that are from Uganda, that new clothes that are being made in Uganda, or we're talking about Highland made, and they are brought here, imported, and put in a certain warehouse, and the factory says we've produced. The president must be very clear on this. We have a lot of hawks that goes into these trade things. So the president has to be clear before he puts a directive into implementation. We could be saying stop second-hand clothes, and then we are looking at imported new clothes that don't even add up the quality. So do we have a quality mark for these clothes that Ugandans can trust and believe that they can use these clothes? Because with us, we traders, we're ready to trade in those clothes if they are quality. Because we're the ones who do last mile distribution. Then secondly, from quality, let's talk about the assurance of this country that the president is very, very sure that this was actually made in Uganda. Can we have a made in Uganda mark on these clothes? These things are not happening. So this is why we are questioning this whole business of the directive. Then the third thing that I want to talk about is the trade policies themselves. Yes, you are producing clothes from Uganda. These factories have got a tendency of establishing their outlets, their shops downtown. It means that anybody who wants to buy clothes will go directly to the factory. So you wash out all the middle system that is working. It means that you are disabling thousands of Ugandans from livelihood, from earning decent incomes. And so the question is, where are you taking them next? And these are questions that the president needs to answer, because it's his directive. If he can't answer them, then probably institutions that are around him should be able to answer this. So we are saying, can we have dialogues before these things are mentioned? Can we appreciate the facts? Can KACITA be brought on board to help you understand some of these dynamics on ground? Otherwise, you're going to make policies that you're going to reverse in the near future, and then we're going to sit back and say it was a hopeless decision. We don't want to reach that point, because already people have lost money in COVID, people have lost businesses, people are trying to start up again, people have borrowed money to import. So these dynamics are very, very kind of heartbreaking, if I might say. But also we want to say, as KACITA, that we have a number of traders in this country who can start a factory, a manufacturing factory. We have those who have even the capacity to start a steel rolling mills. Like do a lot of steel and refurbish and make stuff here. But government is interested in having a conversation with an Indian in India, with somebody in Serbia, with somebody in the US, having a conversation with somebody in Turkey, but fail to have an investment conversation with a Ugandan. And that's the most heartbreaking thing that we see in this country. The platform to dialogue, to convince, to create surety for the local trader that, you know what, when you put your money here, we guarantee you A, B, C, D. That is not happening. But we're seeing efforts. We're seeing, we're having all these international forums to discuss about trade. And who goes there? The government, the ministers, the government heads of institutions. And what do they know about trade? They have never traded themselves, so they know nothing about trade. They know much about policy. We know much about what works. And so it's very interesting how they come up with these things without the real actors in the trade. And so we are saying, look, can we have more vivid discussions about trade with people who are trade actors? Then secondly, we're saying, can you have a conversation with the traders? I'll give an example. In 2021, granular data shows that the diaspora savings, young people who go out of this country, work in different countries, and they send their money back to Uganda, to their parents, to do something, construction, to do something. When they put together this money, it was about $1.2 billion US in diaspora savings. Now, that was in 2021. In the same year, Uganda borrowed $1.6 billion US to finalize Karuma Dam. Now, it would have been, for a serious country that has serious policymakers, they would have worked on consolidating the diaspora remittances of the 1.2 billion shillings. That means 2023 we would be looking at how do we consolidate this money? How do we give Ugandans trust? How do we give Ugandans guarantee on their money? So that they put this money in one pool and Uganda uses to invest. If Uganda needs to manufacture clothes, it would have used these diaspora savings. It would be looking at using these diaspora savings to start a steel rolling mills, to start a sugar factory, to start a cloth industry here, than going out singing songs to investors. It's a beautiful thing, but we think that it still has a lot of gaps. It needs to be redirected. So this country is not thinking in the right direction, and I think that we need to sit on the table. So we'll give you some of these perspectives. We are willing to come and sit and give you free perspectives in terms of trade. We're going into the bigger market. We're going into the East African Free Continental Trade Area. We're going into the East African Community. Of course, we've had issues on our products. Some steel rolling mills cannot export to Rwanda because Rwanda says your quality is poor. We've seen the milk. They're saying your quality is poor. We've seen the maize and the posho. They're saying your quality is poor. So now, is it time to say that the textile quality is okay? What is the basis for that? Or it is just an excitement, and so which I don't want to say that it was spoken out of excitement, but I'm forced to believe that's what it is, because the discussions have not happened, and the government stands to lose a lot in terms of trade. Thank you so much.
So government, of course, in most cases, does not run to the people. It is the people who run to the government. And my question would be, what measures have you taken to engage government to make sure that they give you a listening ear? Have there been any measures that you have taken as KACITA?
Yes, we have. We have taken a lot of measures. And you say it rightly, the Ugandans must go to the government. But that now, in the modern world, we do bottom-top decision making, not top to bottom. Now, what we've just seen is top to bottom, which is very wrong, because you're going to misfire. You'd want to exert all the authorities you have around you, but you get to misfire. I think that the best appreciated way is bottom to top conversations, because then you understand that the decision you're making fits the three things. It's fit for purpose, it can be implemented, it can be scaled. Now, when you do top to bottom, you miss out on those three. You miss inclusion, so you miss fit. You miss the implementation process. You miss the buy-in so that it's implementable. And then you miss the small issues that make it work. So we're thinking that as KACITA, we have engaged the platforms. We've engaged Parliament recently on the number plates, and there was a very good discussion by the chairperson of the parliamentary committee on the number plates, and we think that this discussion is going to take a very good turnout in terms of, why do you just wake up and say number plates and then you just must pay? We think that doesn't work. Secondly, we've had engagements. We do get to be part of the budgeting process. So we put there our ideas. We have a lot of discussions with Ministry of Finance and URA on the tax regimes, on how they can be reshaped, on how they can be implemented, on how we can scale them up in terms of adoption. So we've engaged the platforms that are there. We've also associated with some of our colleagues like PSFU to be able to do policy lobbying, and we are happy to do that. But still, there's a very big gap. Can we have a national platform to discuss these trade issues? Because everybody here is surviving in trade. You're either a buyer or you're a trader, and that's how the world works. Even government, sometimes it's on the consumption side, sometimes it's on the service providing side, and this is how the world works. And so if we think that trade can reshape itself without dialogue, we are lying to ourselves. So we as KACITA, we think that we are a better platform to deal with, because we have 3 million traders, and this is conservatively saying 3 million traders, but we have more young people who have registered under the youth league. We have more women who have registered under the women league, and many of them are having these beautiful conversations. So you can't leave us out, but let's have government deliberately create a platform to dialogue with the traders, with these associations that lead traders. Then what I want also to say is the traders have a lot of issues. Maybe we'll dive into that later. Okay. But the biggest issue now is the gap between government and the traders. Government should be very interested in a bottom top process in terms of trade.
Thank you. When you look at the industrialization of Uganda, we have some industries growing faster than others. We have agriculture growing on a fast rate, tourism, infrastructure, and I'd like to understand, where is the textile industry at this time and in this moment, in this particular time when President Museveni is of the view that we stop importing second-hand clothes? Is the textile industry in Uganda strong enough to carry on what the second-hand to fill the gap of what the second-hand clothes have been filling?
Frankly saying, I don't think the textile industry is really ready for this, because Talk about the factories that are in this country that are doing textile. Talk about the ginneries that we have. Talk about the farmers of cotton that we have, the farmers of silk that we have, the farmers of whatever other material that we have. They are not there. They are really scanty. And if you talk about the industries that are doing textile, you won't talk about 100 plus factories, but you're talking about 42, 43 million consumers, because that's our population as a country. These people need to be dressed. And the capacity that is there cannot handle. We know this as a matter of fact. If you ask the regions that are farming cotton, it's northern Uganda, some bits of the west, some bits of the east, but these are scanty farmers that are also grappling with the fact that they want to diversify, change to another product, change to sunflower, because cotton and sunflower do well in the same areas. So because the cooking oil industry is making more money because it has more diversified products. So the entire value chain for textile in this country, Uganda of ours, is not there. Because from the factories, the manufacturers, we have a gap. A very big gap that cannot be even spoken about easily or bridged easily. The second level is talk about the people who turn this material into real clothes, the tailors. Countries like Vietnam has 20 million tailors, 20 million. That's half of our population. Everybody is a tailor in Vietnam. So there's no a question why Vietnam exports to us clothes, because it has the capacity. 20 million tailors sitting on a tailoring machine on a daily basis to create a cloth. We don't have that here. We don't have that here. So we can't say we're going to produce for this country. We'll be lying to ourselves. Then when you move away from that technical skill, that capacity, the equipment, how many young people own tailoring machines here to turn these clothes into this material into cloth? They're not there. We don't have that capacity. We have Chiembe. Chiembe has been a very good production place in terms of textile for this country. And we've had engagements with some government entities saying, you know what, give us land in the industrial park. Let's take all our Chiembe into one place, so that it's a chain of production of clothes. They have not done that. These conversations have not been fruitful. So when you talk about Uganda producing for itself, we are lying to ourselves. Then secondly, from the skilling bit, let's look at now the back end, which is the garden and the production of cotton. How many farmers do we have earmarked for cotton? How many areas are earmarked for cotton? Who has an irrigation scheme for cotton in this country? So are we sure that we're going to have cotton for our textiles? I don't think so. Which country are we looking at to export to us cotton? What would be the terms? How long does it take? So an immediate directive is just excitement. That's what I would say. Because we don't have the capacity. And so we even don't have, we'll be endangering ourselves to stop the importation immediately. We have markets, competing markets, by the way. We have Congo. We have Sudan, Southern Sudan. They even have more money than the Ugandans. So if we start production here and say we are producing our own clothes to put on, Southern Sudan will come and say we are buying each jean or each shirt at 120,000 shillings. The entire factory will send a consignment to Southern Sudan. It will not come to Uganda, even if we are producing in Uganda. So it won't reach downtown. So Ugandans won't have clothes. The consignment will go to Congo, because Congo is paying more money. If they can buy a trouser at 80,000 shillings and they are comfortable, the factories will send the clothes there. So we'll have naked children, naked adults on the streets, because we are saying that we cannot import second-hand clothes. I think this is an excitement that we need to go back and revisit.
How about importation of new clothes? What if we fill in the gap of second-hand clothes with importing new clothes, like the ones I see at mini price?
Yes.
Those kinds of clothes. How about if we fill in the gap with those ones?
I think we need to talk about what Ugandans can afford. I think that we have very first-line stores in this country. We have Adidas, it has a store here. We have Puma has a store here.
Oh, there are many.
Woolworth,
but are they affordable?
But are they affordable? How many Ugandans can walk there?
No.
Look at the places where they are. it speaks for itself. Ugandans can't afford imported new clothes. They cannot. We would be lying to ourselves, because we're talking about a trouser of 260,000 shillings. How many Ugandans can afford that? That's somebody's salary in a month. You cannot put it in a trouser. We're talking about shoes, and shoes is 250, 260. So how many Ugandans can afford that? I think this country needs to revisit this directive, and the president should be willing to listen to us traders. I wish he could just say, let these traders come and we discuss. We'd give him the best dynamics on how to handle this. I think it's out of excitement, but we're not ready for this as a country.
All right, so not everybody can afford the new clothes, and the old clothes, the option of old clothes, is being chased away by the president of Uganda, who gave a directive, or who said recently that old clothes or second-hand clothes are for dead people, and we should not, as a country, be importing them. We're going to take a very short break. When we return, we understand exactly how we are going to survive. What if the presidential directive continues? Then what? And we are here with Joshua Mawerere, from the chairperson of KACITA Youth League from KACITA, and he's going to be taking us through all these. When we return, we take a short break. We are powered by Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. It's Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. Comfort and luxury at its best. We should be aiming for nothing but the best. Of course, we are back with issues at hand, and the issue on ground is the presidential, now that he's becoming a presidential directive, where he said that he is going to fight or to stop or to end imports of second-hand clothes to Uganda. Now, of course, we know that as a country, we are not the same status as some are middle class, others are high class, and then there is the other class that cannot afford these expensive clothes that like our guest was telling us today. And we must factor in all those groups of people if we are to make such a law, or if such a directive is going to be implemented. And in President Museveni's own words, he said that he is going to go at this with all his gut, and he even said that he will crush anybody that thinks of coming in his way. Now, my question would be, as KACITA, are you sure that you're ready to be crushed by President Museveni? And are you sure that you can survive his wrath?
Thank you so much for that question. I heard that when the president said that anybody who is going to step in his way is going to be crushed. And it is a painful, piece of information to us as policy advocates for traders, because we think that the policy is not going to crush us as an association. It's going to crush the entire country. So what the president is saying is the entire country ready to be crushed? I don't think the entire country is ready for that. I don't think the entire country is ready to be crushed. So we're going to speak up and tell the president that, you know what, this policy is not thought through, and we think it should be thought through. And secondly, we're going to tell him that, the factories we talk about are not ready to feed this market, because that's the fact. We're going to tell him that, you've not skilled enough tailors in this country to be able to dress this country. We're going to tell him that, we don't have enough cotton farmers in this country. We don't have enough silk farmers in this country to be able to talk about producing and dressing in what we've produced in this country. We're going to tell him that, look, you're going to make thousands, if not millions of people lose their livelihood by taking away the second-hand clothes, because you cannot take them anywhere else. This is their livelihood. And you're only suggesting that they go hungry, that their children don't go to school, that they fail to afford basic needs like healthcare, that they fail to get shelter. That's what you're saying. If that's what crushing means, then yes, you'll be able to do that by this directive. But we think that the president is the fountain of honor, and he should be able to appreciate modern processes of policy formulation, that it also leads to sustainability of the country, that a directive unthought through is a bad directive for this country. And so as an association, KACITA, we don't look at this as a challenge of us being crushed. We look at this as a challenge of the country surviving. And would want to have a very, very sincere discussion around this in terms of capacity, in terms of capability, in terms of capitalization of this industry. And how that turns out, we know. And I know that he knows that that the jobs that he's talking about in this country that are from the textile industry and the jobs that have turned out from the second-hand cloth value chain, if I may call it, it's more. The second-hand clothes have more opportunities, more value, more...
And they are more affordable.
More affordable, and they are more appropriate for this country now.
I'm looking at people who shop their clothes from the second hand. You can get a piece at 5,000, 2,000,
yes.
10,000. They are affordable clothes.
Very affordable. And so the president, maybe he wants to commission a naked regime, maybe. If that's the fashion that the president wants to introduce, it's going to manifest because we don't have the capacity. And we are saying, we're a decent community. We don't want to go up to that extreme, and it would be waste of our energies as a country if we go for the directive that we dearly know that it cannot suffice, cannot help this country move forward. I think we would be talking about, the president would be like, I'm excited about these factories. I'm going to put a fund for cotton farmers. I'm going to put a fund for tailoring, so that the tailors are commissioned, are trained, and they can get DIT certificates, and they are DIT trained so they can access jobs. There is a web portal for tailors to get jobs. This conversation makes sense. But the conversation of saying, I have directed and that's what it will be, so somebody who comes in against it will be crushed, I think that is, it is very unfortunate for this country. That's what I would say. As a trader, as a young trader, as somebody who has been part of this sect now, and I get money from it, and I've been part of training young people in skills. I think it's a lost conversation until the president speaks to truth and speaks to opportunities that are being created. And the president is addressed with the facts about the textile industry. Okay.
So we're looking at 50,000 Ugandans losing their jobs in case this directive is to be passed.
Correct.
We're looking at around half of the informal sector that shops their clothes from second-hand, from the second-hand batch. We're looking at those ones also struggling to get new clothes because, of course, we know that over time new clothes get old and you have to refill your wardrobe once in a while. And so those who are refilling from the second-hand batch are now going to struggle to refill their clothes. And of course, we are weighing the options here and seeing, will the presidential directive work, or does he need to sit down with traders and stakeholders to make sure that a solution is found? Now, my question again would come back to the fact that what if President Museveni says he's not changing anything of his directive. He's continuing to crush anyone who comes against his will, that the will of making sure that second-hand clothes are not imported into the country anymore. What if he sticks to that and the presidential directive is passed and it becomes a law? Then what? What happens to these 50,000 people who were working, whose jobs were to sell these clothes or to deal in those clothes? And then what will KACITA do anyway if the directive is to continue? What next for Uganda then?
Thank you so much for that question. It's something that we've been deeply thinking about as a trade association, and the textile colleagues that we have, because they are represented on the association. This country is going to sink over 50,000 traders into loss of their livelihood. And we know that an average family in this country is about 5 people. So 50,000 times 5 people per family. So we're talking about a very huge number of livelihood that's going to be lost. And we're talking about 50,000 times 5, that's about 22,250 plus Ugandans that are going to lose their livelihood. So they won't go to school for the children. It means they won't have clothes. It means they won't have meals. It means they won't have health care. That creates another burden for the government in terms of employment, in terms of safety for this country, because when you have so many people who are not working, it becomes a safety threat. And also, government is going to lose taxes. That's for sure. You are working with a scenario where international funders are pulling out, and then we are saying, okay, we can survive, which is beautiful. It's a good assumption. Then we're now saying that you don't import, so people we would get taxes from. We're also losing that tax base for a substitution of an industry that cannot grow in the shortest time possible to make sure that it turns around to fill that gap. It's going to be a very unfortunate situation for this country, because as we move towards Sustainable Development Vision 2030, where we're saying, better housing, we're saying employment for all, poverty reduction, and Uganda signed to this. And then on the other side, on the contrary, we're doing something that actually detracts ourselves from these achievements. I think we're losing the conversation. Then also I'm going to say that it will be very sad for the young people in this country, because some of these conversations, when you say 50,000 people are going to lose their livelihood, you are saying 98% of the 50,000, the young people, are going to lose their livelihood. So it's going to be very painful. And my father usually says that if you make a decision, be ready for the consequences. I hope the president is ready for the consequences for this directive, and the entire government is ready for the consequences of this directive. But this is my hope, that, and it's the hope of KACITA, that the president takes in the information he was given, that this country can sustain itself in textile, which is wrong information, but also be interested in hearing another conversation on the textile industry from people who have been part of the textile industry, who understand it, because we break bulks from different textile manufacturers, and we understand. We can give studies. This is a bit about KACITA, by the way, that most of our traders have been all over the world. And if you ask a textile trader that which country is doing best in textile, they'll tell you, and they'll tell you the reasons why. They'll tell you Vietnam, and they'll tell you Vietnam has capacity in terms of tailoring, 20 million tailors on a daily basis on tailoring machine. That capacity we don't have. And they'll tell you, if you want to produce cotton, this is why they do it in this country that exports cotton, and we do it here. And so the president must be open to the conversation. This business of crushing, I think it was a statement that overshot from him. That's what I want to believe. But if he stands by it, then we making decisions that are very uninformed, which is not nice as a country. And I think that as KACITA, we're going to continuously pursue the course of having dialogue with government entities. Unfortunately, we don't seem to have a platform with the president, which is very sad, because they should be interested in meeting us and understanding what we're talking about. Most people, most places we end up with the conversations, they end up there, and we don't see a lot of turnout. Hopefully, this situation we're in now with this directive can bring us to have a honest discussion as a country. And as KACITA, we're not going to relent. We're not going to stop discussing. We are more articulate, more positioned in lobbying for these policy formulations and also implementation. We are very vivid on understanding on how the traders shape out. And we're now still asking ourselves, where do these traders go? How do they get livelihood if this continues? And we want to have this conversation with anybody who is interested to have a conversation with us. But we hope that this country appreciates dialogue and bottom-up decision making.
Okay. We've seen that, of course, the textile industry is still a baby industry. There are some loopholes and nitty-gritties that need to be dealt with before this directive can be taken into action. Or to leave the directive and do away with it completely is what we've gotten from the discussion. But as we wrap up, maybe you can give us your last words about this issue.
Thank you very much. My last discussions and takeaway for everybody in this country is that our textile industry is not ready to take up. And like I said earlier, we have, I won't use it as an example because I would mention some industries which is not good. But I want to say it's a baby industry. It's very, very young that we cannot dress ourselves in this country. And the reasons are clear. Let's, first of all, understand that these clothes we're talking about are made here. Can they have a made in Uganda tag? So we are sure that they're made here. If we don't have that, then we are assuming that they are made here. We know that they can be imported, put in a store somewhere, and they say they are made here. So let's make sure that they're made here. Secondly, let's move down to the next level. Can we invest in the skill of tailoring? Can we put machines across? We don't make those machines here, so we have to import them. So let's import the machines. Let's empower the young people who can sit on a tailoring machine for 8 hours. Let's empower them to get better machines. Let's empower them to have the skill to run these machines. Can we have at least 1 million tailors in this country? Can we have 2 million tailors in this country before we talk about dressing ourselves? Can we have gazetted places for tailors? Can you come and work with KACITA and move Chiembe to a place where it can become a sustainable industry for textile? Then third, can we support the cotton industry? The farmers. Can we create capital for them? Can we support the seedlings they are getting? Can we support the whole farming process to add value so that we're able to produce quality cotton for quality clothes? Can we support the silk industry? Can we have capital for them? We have PADM is talking about value addition. Now, it is mislocated. We'll talk about that next another time about the parish development model. They're saying it's supposed to push agriculture. So can we make sure that it does that before we take this directive? Then I'm going to say, lastly, that if we want to take this directive seriously, then this must be done. Invest in the process of this country producing the textile for it. We have 43 million people. We need to make sure that we can raise 43 million people in terms of pieces that are produced, in terms of sustainability. Then we have competing markets. These competing markets, unless you're saying we want to export, you're going to tell the factories not to export to any other country, then we can be able to do enough clothes here. But I'm saying this cannot be done immediately. This is a process we have to build. So in the meantime, we need to allow the second-hand clothes come in this country.
Okay.
We need to allow that industry thrive. As we train the 50,000 people who are going to be displaced, who are going to be moved out of livelihood, to be able to jump onto the bandwagon of being the tailors.
Okay.
If we don't do that, then please, Mr. President, I think it's a very unthought through process. Thank you so much.
The conversation hangs in the balance about, of course, the directive, the presidential directive, the newest of its kind, that is going to stop the importation of course, second-hand clothes. Some of the people that I know, some of the family members and friends I have, all put on second-hand clothes. It's rare to find somebody running for the new clothes, and so it has been an anchor for the industry in Uganda, and we have had that the textile industry is still a baby industry, unable to sustain itself for now, and so the the presidential directive hangs in the balance, but the conversation continues on our social media platforms. That's at Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Church of Uganda Family TV, and my personal at Caro Amani on Twitter, where you can find me and we can continue the conversation about this. For now, it is a good morning. Thank you so much for being a part of Issues at Hand. We are powered by Protea Hotel, by Marriott and Tebe, and this is Church of Uganda Family TV.